Hey friends, so the new Ableton Live Beta 12.4 is here, and the new updates are really cool, really smart, and honestly, pretty unexpected. So definitely stick around for the whole video. Let's go ahead and take a look at what I've got going on. So here's just a beat I have on this computer. So I've just got a beat. Let's say though that I want to collaborate with a friend of mine and they're coming over to my studio. Well, check this out. So I'm not quite ready to reveal my new space just yet, but I'm going to just show you what's going on here. Let's just say that this is my friend's computer and this is my computer. What we can now do is we can enable what's called link audio. So I've turned link on this computer. Now on this computer, I'm going to go over here and click link. And now we see that it says one link right there up in the corner. But check this out. If I click on this drop-down menu, you can see now it says link audio. So what I can do is, so long as these two computers are on the same network, and it's recommended that you use a hard network as opposed to Wi-Fi, but if I go to click configure link, and now we can see that there is a peer available, and that's this other computer. So now I can go back into my set and I can make a new audio track. And within this audio track, if I click on my drop-down menu, look, I can see live right here. So this is that other computer. And so now if I hit play, we can see that audio coming in from the other computer. Super amazing. And so of course with any audio in Ableton, you have to monitor it in some way. So I'm going to go ahead and just click in on my monitoring, and now we can hear a synthesizer, and we can hear hats that have been added to my beat. This gets even cooler because you can click on this drop-down menu and you can actually choose individual tracks. So if you take a look at this Ableton set over here, my imaginary friend has made two tracks. We've got a drift track and then we've got hi-hats, right? So check this out. Now I can choose the drift track as this track, and I'll go ahead and start another audio track and choose my input again as live, which is the other computer, and then I'll choose hats. And then I'll turn my monitoring to in, and now I have them separated. So of course, just like any other audio source, I can record the input. So here's a super fast way to capture what my friend may have come up with while working on their laptop. You know, one thing you could do is have two people on headphones and you're both cranking out ideas in the same speed and the same key, and then you can quickly just link audio and capture the idea onto the main set that you're working on. This is just a genius idea, but it gets even better than that. I think before we get any farther, though, I'm going to go ahead and delete this recorded audio that I just did, and I want to show you something else. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and solo this synthesizer track from the other computer. I'm going to turn it down a little bit, maybe like 5 dB, and I want to show you something else. So on this computer, I have two clips of this synth. One is sort of like a gated one, and then here's one that's just wide open. So this brings me to the next exciting feature, and that's that you can process linked audio. So I can grab, for example, the new Ableton Chorus. Chorus has been updated, and this is a great opportunity to show it. So I'm actually putting the chorus on the linked audio track that's coming in from the other computer. So to show you what this thing can do and why the new chorus is so amazing is I'm going to put it back on auto, for example. Now, up until this point, Ableton Chorus, you may have felt that it's been lacking, and I would agree. Up until this point, the chorus really didn't sound like many different choruses that you hear on different plugins, and so I actually had quite a collection of choruses from plugin developers because Ableton's chorus really never did it for me. But here's the reason why. If you set the time on auto, which is how it used to be, when you turned amount up, this would not only change the pitch variation, like more amount means that the pitch would go up more and down more, but it also would increase the delay time. And so at low amounts, what you end up getting is basically a flanger, and it sounds like this. Right? So not a very pleasing sound, right? But check this out. So now you can choose different static delay times. And so what these static delay times allow you to do is to get different styles of chorus that you might be more familiar with and what you associate in your head when you think of chorus, especially those of us that are guitar players or synth players that used guitar pedals. So check it out. just massive sounds you can get with Chorus now. And honestly, it's going to replace a lot of plugins that I have because now it can finally do the thing, right? Now, you also have the option to change the tap count. So right now, there are two different copies of the original signal, and they are both pitched against each other, but you can just choose to use one. And this kind of gives you maybe even a more of a classic guitar pedal kind of sound. So this was the original sound. Now that's a chorus, right? So the next device that got an overhaul in Ableton 12.4 is a device that is near and dear to my heart, Ableton Erosion. And I think a lot of people overlook Erosion. They're like, what is this noisy, weird thing, right? Well, what I want to do is I want to play you this mix without any erosions on, and then I'm going to enable all of the erosions on each one of these tracks so that you can hear the huge difference that using erosion can make before we get into what has changed about it. So here's this mix without any erosion. Now let's take a listen with the erosion. Without it. With it. So the use case for erosion for me is to take sounds that are sort of hiding in the mix and then poke them out a little bit. Let's go ahead and take a look at the interface. So we'll just listen to this bass for now. So erosion at the moment is sitting between an operator making like a sine waveform, a saturator, an LFO, kind of making it pump by way of a utility. But without the erosion, this is what this bass line sounds like. And then with the erosion, it sounds like this. So if you're familiar with erosion, some of the things that have changed is now you can, instead of selecting a mode, you can now use this noise blend knob to fluidly blend between the sine modulation and then noise. So this is useful because sometimes a combination of both of these really makes a pleasing result. Take a listen to what happens when I kind of move this over this way. So a little blend right there actually helps poke that bass out even more than it might have been before. I'll go ahead and loop this little section right here to show you width. So width, now you can choose how wide, or in other words, how many frequencies will comprise of the noise width. So I'll turn the noise blend all the way up and I'll show you. You also can now fluidly blend between whether the noise is super wide or whether it's mono. So check this out. So essentially, what erosion feels like to me now is instead of just a selector, it's got a lot more fluidity to it, right? You can sort of blend various aspects of it together. So yeah, this may not be the most exciting new feature, but I just want to point out and get more people aware of erosion because it really can help. I mean, especially if you're making electronic music, EDM, dance music, these genres really take advantage of using noise and then high-pitched sine modulation to get sounds to sound loud without making too much more peak level, right? So definitely check out erosion. So getting back to Link Audio is incredible. I'm actually piping audio over a network from one computer to another, and this just makes collaboration just snap fast. You just connect the computers, turn on Link, and it's awesome. But it gets even cooler than that, because now I can go ahead and add another audio track and check this out. So with this new audio track, check this out. I've got my Move over here, and if I go to my menu, I can turn Link on to start and stop, so all my Link options are now on, and check this out. I've got two links, right? Now I'll launch the clock and we can see that they're synced, right? But I bet you can guess what I'm about to do. So I'll go into my inputs and now check it out. Link Audio, we can now send audio from Move into Ableton in real time. So of course I can capture the main, but I actually have a little extra bass synth lick that I'm gonna go ahead and add. And so I'll turn on in right now, and I'll go ahead and just switch these other tracks to in and turn off their arming. So now check this out. Super cool. So I'll add another track, And this one is coming from the Move, and this is just like a little lead lick that I have in here. Go ahead and set it to in, and now we get... I'll go ahead and solo this. Now, again, you can process this audio, so I'm going to actually send it some reverb, maybe some delay. So before we go any farther, I think it's worth pointing something out. Within Link, you'll notice that it just turned red right there. So as of right now, I'm using just this little Wi-Fi router right here, and this thing is okay. I mean, you can see that there's a couple extra options here. One of them is called latency. Essentially, what this allows me to do, I need to crank this up in order for this little Wi-Fi router to do the trick. Essentially, I'm using Wi-Fi, but Ableton doesn't recommend using Wi-Fi. In fact, they recommend using a hard network. And this is actually pretty simple to do. At least with these two computers, I could just run a Thunderbolt cable between them and just have a wired connection. It would be a lot faster. And let me show you why that might be a good idea. So right now, if I set the buffer size at, let's say, like 9 or 10, for example, take a listen now. We can hear dropouts happening, and they're not actually necessarily unpleasant, but it's definitely not going to work. And of course, that's not going to be desirable, so you may need to crank this up a little bit. I have this safely at like 250 or something. Another thing I should point out is that with monitoring mode off, essentially all these devices are going to play at their various speeds that they're connected to the computer with. So what this does is this delays the outputs of the various linked audio hardware that I have running into the computer so that it lines up. Without it, take a listen. Right? So when you turn this on, the entire system is delayed so that everything lines up just right. Just like with plug and delay compensation. So again, this is why Ableton recommends doing a wired setup. So you might be wondering, where does Ableton Push fit into this paradigm? And happily, not only can Ableton Push send link audio to a computer, but it can also host link audio. And so in this situation, you can see that I'm using the Ableton Move into the Ableton Push, and the Push is the link audio host. Pretty rad, right? Okay, so talking about the Move specifically, in addition to being able to use link audio with the Move, we now can record audio clips directly to Move, and man, this is so exciting. So let me show you what I'm going to do here. I'm going to record my Telepathic Instruments Orchid chord machine. These things are awesome, by the way. But what I need to do first is I need to set up an audio track. So what you do is you go into here, and I'm going to go up to back. We're going to kind of get all the way out of everything and then scroll all the way up to the top. And our first track option now is audio track. So I'll click on this, and I'll hit record. And now we can see that we can choose our inputs. So right now I'm using the line input, that's this blue cable, but if I pull it out, we can see that it turns into a microphone, so I can record a mic, or I can also record from the USB. So, you know, maybe you got like your iPhone or something, you want to like record some YouTube sample or something like that, you can use the USB-C input. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and use the line input for now. So I'll go ahead and launch my beat, and then I'll just tap this first grid point to start recording. Then you just hit it again to finish recording. So now if I click this loop button right here, I can see how long my clip was recorded. I only want the first 4 bars, so I'll click on the first bar, and then I'll click on the 4th, and then I'll cut off all that extra stuff that I don't want. So the next thing you'll notice is that you've got 4 knobs up here that have various different parameters. One of them is volume, so you can just turn this down a little bit. You can gain the clip down. Nice. Now the next knob is transpose, and apparently they made a proprietary warping algorithm just for the Move. So let's take a listen to how good it sounds. That low end is really well preserved. I actually really like the way that sounds. Let's go the other way and see what it sounds like pitched up. And to show you the next knob, I'm going to go ahead and copy this clip right here. And so now I have a second clip and I can do some fun things with it. Maybe one thing I would want to do on this one is maybe I want to change the tempo. So maybe I'll make it a lot lower and make it start right here. Right? Tight. So maybe I'll copy this one and then put it right here. And then on this one, I'll go ahead and instead, I'll make the transposition much lower, and then I'll make the tempo much longer so it's a longer sample, and then maybe I'll start from like right here. So check it out. So another thing that's awesome about audio tracks is, of course, you can add audio effects. So let's go in here and maybe we'll replace this delay right here by backing out of it. And you can see all the different effects you can add. Let's go ahead and add, of course, erosion. They added erosion to Ableton Move. So let's go ahead and use Gritty Tops. Nice. And maybe another thing we could add is some reverb. So over here on the reverb, I'll go ahead and turn my dry wet up a bit. Tight. So there is some audio effects on our audio tracks. Now I want to show you one more thing. So I'm going to go to this track, and let's go ahead and again, I'm going to click right here, go all the way up to back, and then go all the way up to the top. And that's how you get to your audio tracks. And I'll go ahead and pull this little jack out for now. And let's go to recording, and I want to use the mic. Go ahead and gain that mic up a little bit. Let's go ahead and record. Okay, so I recorded that incredibly embarrassing take to show you another really awesome feature, and that's that now we have built into Ableton Move auto shift. So pretty sweet, right? So go ahead and shift this up 12 semitones. So yeah, lots of fun to be had with this update on Move. Okay, so moving on, let's take a look at the drums. Ableton has updated their delay. So you might be like, oh, putting delay on the drum bus, what on earth? I'm going to do this because this actually helps us sort of see some of the capabilities here. So you might be looking at delay and thinking, this looks pretty similar to delay before. But if you look down here at the bottom, we can see that there's a new LFO page. Before, the LFO didn't have too many options. You could modulate the delay time, right? And then you could modulate the filter. So what this sounded like in practice was, you know, the delay speeding up and slowing down. Right? I don't know how useful that is. But what's really rad is that now you can sync the clock of the LFO. So the LFO's waveform is now going to cycle with the speed of the clock. And this allows for some really interesting, you could think of them as sort of like a more pleasant beat repeat kind of effect. So right now I'm using a rate, let's go ahead and make the rate maybe like a half. Now take a listen to this. Now right now we can hear that the pitch is going up and down, and that's because we're using the repitch mode. But if I switch over to fade, for example, take a listen now. Right? And so, of course, you can mess around with the filtering. So right now we're using a triangle waveform, right? It's just going linearly up and then linearly down to whatever the modulation target that I have set. We could try different LFO shapes, which is really interesting. So let's go ahead and try maybe ramp up. Sick. So that's really interesting, right? And so, of course, you don't have to use the same delay on the left and the right. So let's go ahead and unlink the left and the right, and I'll put the right on, 4. Let's take a listen to this now. Sick. Let's see what happens with repitch. So another thing we can try is to switch over to jump mode. And what jump mode will do is it will sort of step through the delay times immediately instead of kind of like sweeping up into them. And so this can maybe yield maybe a different, more precise, if you will, style of delay. And so you can also offset the left or the right side of the delay in order to make a little bit more stereo, right? I'm personally loving this fade mode right now. And so you can also affect the filter. Essentially, this will sweep this filter frequency up and down. Let's take a listen to that. Now you can also morph the shape of the LFO. And so as of right now, what we get is sort of just a linear down ramp, but we can actually make it go faster by going up in percentage. Now, if we want more of like a sweep, maybe we'll go the other direction. We can hear that this up ramp saw shape is staying down low longer than it is staying up high. And then, of course, the inverse is true. Let's go ahead and try something else. So another thing we could do is sample and hold mode. And essentially, this is sort of like a stepped random. So at whatever beat division we have, it will choose a different delay time to go to. This might be more apparent with repitch. Let's take a listen. Right? Pretty wild. Now it'll do it every beat. The synced LFO is a super cool feature and really allows you to take delay and make some really interesting kind of sounds with it. So in this video, I showed my favorite things of 12.4, but believe it or not, there are even more exciting updates, such as now you can separate stems by a timing selection instead of having to wait for the whole entire clip to separate. Now, another thing is that you can now record audio into Ableton Note, which is really exciting for me because I've always thought that Ableton Note would be a more useful platform if it could record audio. And yet another one that I'm really excited about is that now Ableton Push can support control scripts. So you can plug in your favorite MIDI controllers just like you would on a computer, and the mappings will be instant. So yeah, 12.4 is 100% the whole bag, man. So yeah, the 12.4 updates are really great. The chorus sounds amazing. Erosion is more fluid. The LFO and the delay is pure fun. And honestly, at least for me, Link Audio steals the show. I can see so many amazing opportunities for collaboration in home studios. Also, like speeding up the process of getting sounds to and from various Ableton devices. But I can also see some really exciting potentials for live stage performances too. Like, new ways to connect musical devices is awesome. So kudos to Ableton for giving us something we didn't even know we needed. If you like this kind of thing, please like, comment, and subscribe. Much love, everybody. I'll see you next time.